Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This issue features X Factor number 61, cover dated December 1990. This is part 6 of the 9-part X-Tinction agenda. This brings to a conclusion Act 2 of the 3-act crossover event between Uncanny X-Men, New Mutants and X Factor. The cover here is not one of the best ones that there's ever been on X Factor or among the X titles. Really, this top panel here lifts an interior panel by Jon Bogdanove. And this signature here, so we've got 3 signatures on the cover. We've got Jon Bogdanove's signature, we've got an artist who's named inside, who does the second half of the issue. Jon Caponigro is his name, and Al Milgrom on inks. I think the idea for this cover is not fantastic. It doesn't look good, and really it seems to kind of, what shall I say? It's the reason why the very next issue, number 62, I'd say Bob Harras looked around and said, Jim Lee, can you do the cover for issue 62? Which is what he did do, and which is a very nice cover. This is not a good cover. But let's open this one up to the splash page. Splash page here is used to catch the reader up on the situation with all the various members of the different X teams. Who has been killed, Warlock there, who's been turned into mutates, Rain and Storm, who's being captured here, chief among them Wolverine and Jean Grey, as well as Cable, who's on the loose. It is the depowered Boom Boom and Richter, but also Jubilee, who's still got her powers. And then these currently going into this issue, members of X Factor, X-Men and Cannonball are free. So the title of the story is Betrayal. And let's turn over the page and we will get our creative credits here. So Louise Simonson, writer, Jon Bogdanove, penciler, and then we have this interesting little credit for Jon Caponigro, assisted pencils, pages 12 to 23. So I'll point out where he comes on board. So it's that phrase, assisted pencils, that has me wondering whether he is being assisted by Jon Bogdanove or whether his pencils are assisting Jon Bogdanove. The style is similar to Bogdanove's in the second half of the book, but not as accomplished. And then rounding out the creative team, we've got Joe Rosen, letterer, and Mike Rockwitz on colors. So this is a pretty cool anchor image here of Hodge, and of course he is ranting away about how over half the mutants have been captured, not bad for a few days' work, and how he is looking to see what is going on with Forge here, because Forge is unconscious. And the reason why that is will be revealed a little later in the issue. But meanwhile, Hodge there demands from Wipeout, who is the mutant serving Genosha, whose power it is to cancel out other mutants' powers, whether he has done that to Forge. And he says no, he's blameless, because Hodge wants Forge's ability with machinery and tech in order to better his cybernetic mechanical body. So he is asked here by Jean Grey, why are you doing this, Hodge? Why have you turned against us? We were once your friends. So that's a callback to original X Factor history. And he lashes out at her with one of his tentacles. Mutant fool, he yells. I could never be a friend of mutants, of those whose destiny is to usurp humanity, unless humanity finds the means to stop them. I have always, he says, been your oldest and most obsessive enemy, and I will destroy you as Archangel destroyed me, because it was Archangel that beheaded him. And look and see the drool, or the snot coming out of his mouth and nose there. Very, very monstrous appearance on Hodge. And in the meantime, there is Magistrate Summers, Alex Summers, who's watching proceedings and who intervenes in order to remind Hodge that the Gene-Engineer has ordered that the mutants not be physically harmed. And so Hodge acknowledges that, but is bitter about it. And Alex thinks to himself, how can I have spoken like that to him? He's dangerous. But there's something unsettling about these mutant invaders, something that makes me want to help them. No way I'll believe I'm their leader, Cyclopses. long-lost brother, but I don't excuse Hodge's brutality either. So Hodge hurls Forge at Alex, and he catches him there, and Hodge commands Alex to bring the mutant trash to his prison cell. So we see that taking place here, and Alex is getting mocked by one of his magistrate compatriots. That's a pretty nice image of the various prisoners walking towards the cell areas with Hodge's hulking mechanical body there in the background. All the while, Alex is thinking how, as a free mutant, how he has been helping the country as a free mutant, like the press gang, the members of the press gang. Though in reality, he also thinks we free mutants are few and mostly set apart, second-class citizens in a society that pretends to offer us equality. So he says to the magistrate that was mocking him, I've had to work 3 times as hard, be 3 times as good at my job, and 3 times as loyal to Genosha as any magistrate on my level, and I won't let any mutant trickery make a fool of me or spoil my success. So the guy backs off. Meanwhile, Jean and Cable spot Rain, who's been transformed into a mutate by the chief engineer, and of course they're completely aghast. Sunspot also. So let's see, how will Rain respond to them? Well, she responds to them blankly. And Cable is deeply upset, of course, because Rain was in his charge. Hodge is there mocking him. It seems, Cable, that you do not understand the full impact of what was done to her or what will be done to you. Let me elucidate. It is worse for her than the others. I've seen to that. Her mind has not been so thoroughly wiped. So that enrages Cable. That's a pretty nice little couple of panels there where we see the rage in his eye, and he snaps the chain link of his manacles and lunges at Hodge. But there's an interesting thought that he thinks to himself regarding his bionic arm over there. Wipeout's power block somehow makes me unable to control my bionic left arm. Blame things useless. No matter, I only need one hand. Now, smart or engaged readers will be wondering about Cable. Well, if his powers are blocked and he doesn't have his telepathic powers, how is he holding back the transmode virus that would otherwise ravage his body? Well, of course, that hasn't been established yet. That's coming in the future, in the next few months, in terms of Cable's origin story as baby Nathan Christopher. But it's not continuity at this point, and so we don't have any transmode virus killing him. And there you see we get in this panel the origin of the image on the cover. Bogdanove obviously under time pressure and deciding that he liked that particular image and transferring it, pretty much tracing it for the cover. So Cable attacks Hodge, but Hodge is much more capable and manages to bind Cable with those tentacles and then pin him to the wall with these spikes. And Cable all the while is berating himself. How can I call myself the mentor of the New Mutants if they can be brutalized like that while under my protection? So he's filled with self-recriminations. Meanwhile, Hodge there, drooling from his mouth onto the wiring that surrounds his head, says, you see how foolish was your effort against me. And yeah, Cable looks like he's not just physically beaten, but also mentally beaten and in despair in that particular panel. Boom Boom and Rick are free escaped. With the skills I taught them, I've made a difference in their lives, their safety, and may be free. They will find a way to make a difference in Genosha. So he is in despair, but a little bit of hope for the charges of his that are free. Then the scene switches to a deserted warehouse. But it's not deserted because inside are the members of the various X teams, mostly X Factor, and of course Cyclops is the leader. And his response to what Cannonball says about the others being taken prisoner is, our people knew the risks they were taking and the Genoshians won't get the chance to harm them if our plan works. So what the plan is, we learn a little bit about in his thoughts, and it's kind of interesting that this is a characteristic of Louise Simonson's writing of the characters. They'll say certain things and then we also get an insight into what they're privately thinking via the thought balloons. So Cyclops continues and says a big if to himself. The Genosians have the resources of a whole country behind them, and they have a leader we haven't encountered yet, someone very powerful. So that's Hodge, of course, but Cyclops doesn't know it yet. By now, Genosha's mind readers will have brain scanned Jean and the others and learned of the charges openly planted. But Forge and I alone know about the secret weapon he's concocted, and its presence should be protected by his voluntary unconscious. What that means is that's kind of a mistaken phrase there. It should be his voluntary unconsciousness. So Forge has voluntarily gone unconscious in order to hide from the telepaths the secret weapon that he and Cyclops have concocted, and that will be revealed in Act 3 of the crossover event. So now we can see also what's happening here is that these guys are disguising themselves as mutates, so what's going to happen next is that they are in disguise going to infiltrate the Citadel, and Iceman is wondering whether it's a good idea. And also he's getting like this little kind of bald cap put on him so as to disguise him as a mutate. And Cyclops says to the other team members, all right, you know the plan. So Banshee picks up and says, while you're below, we're to provide a crisis up above. And Cannonball says, and if we're lucky, we nab ourselves a hostage. So this team is going to be split also. Meanwhile, in the Citadel, we have the prisoners being thrown into their cells one by one, with the exception of Jean Grey. What about the babe, says this magistrate. Cells being designated specially, says the other, just for her. Have fun, sweets. And she thinks to herself, what does he mean? Now, a little observation I have on the kind of anatomy here, the way that Bogdanove is drawing Jean's anatomy, these kind of big, thick thighs and backside as well, very reminiscent to me of Robert Crumb's anatomy for female figures. And I also see a little Crumb influence coming up also in respect of how he draws Hodge, and I'll point it out in a moment. So I wonder, was Bogdanove looking at Robert Crumb around this time period? So turn the page here, and we find, Jean rather discovers who she's sharing the cell with, and it's a badly injured Logan. I've always really liked this particular panel of Logan in the dark. He looks very wolf-like with his kind of eyes, yellow eyes here, looking out from under his brow, and the blood that's just dripping from his forehead as well. It's a really great image that Bogdanove concocted there. So Jean hasn't really seen Wolverine since Inferno, when they kissed, and outside the cell is this horrific visage of Cameron Hodge. He's the one who has decided that the two should share the cell. He says to Jean of Logan, not a pretty sight, is he, my dear? Life's a little harder for him these days without his healing factor, because of course that's been blanked by Wipeout. I suspect that he may need the kind of care that only you can provide. I regret that I require you to share accommodations, but already our holding cells are filled to capacity, and with your help I'll be acquiring new captives almost immediately. So he shuts the little hatch of the cell door and laughs like a real scenery chewing ham villain. And so now we have this moment between Jean and Logan, where she sits down on his bunk beside him, and she sees how she thinks to herself in respect of what bad shape he's in. And he says to her, funny, back before you lost your telepathic power, you used to know what I was thinking even before I thought it, and I never had a clue what was going on inside your head. So she moves in, and just the art here is a little it's a little obscure. It always looked to me like she was kissing him on the nose, but actually I think what Bogdanove is going for is that she's kissing him on his cheek, on his right cheek. And then you can see that look on Wolverine where he says to her, "It's good to see you, Jeannie, even here." And now we get the reprise of the kiss from Inferno. And Jean sheds a tear. So what's that about? Is it about betraying Cyclops? Red, what is it? Asks Wolverine. And she says to him, and again, this is where Simonson really does good work with what a character will say openly and what they think privately. You, and she pauses, haven't lost your touch. You're still the best at what you do. So kind of, putting on a brave face and praising him there, but she thinks privately, that close. Don't have to be much of a mind reader to know he's dying and to know he knows it. And so that's what's upset her. And Cameron Hodge, the sadist, is enjoying everything. Somebody asks, is it wise to put the two of them together? It's the chief engineer, and he says to David Moreau, he says, "I've done so for a reason, engineer. As X-Factor's ex-friend and publicist, I had access to their dossiers, including the information the telepath Charles Xavier had compiled about them." And he continues, "Wolverine has long harbored a secret passion for the woman, and though she's presently committed to X-Factor's leader, she has always found him, shall we say, attractive. Were she to betray Cyclops out of love for Wolverine, or even out of pity, that will destroy Cyclops more effectively than any weapon I could devise." So Cameron Hodge, a real stone cold, nasty piece of work villain, really trying to destroy these people he hates emotionally as well as physically. And here you can see again what I was talking about earlier, the Robert Crumb influence, like all of this black spotting on his nose. They're like blackheads, but it's very Robert Crumb like to me. Let me know what you think of that in the comments section to the video. By the way, this is page 12 of the art, where Jon Caponigro comes in with the assisted pencils. So whatever that does mean. So the magistrates have arrived outside of the warehouse where where Cyclops and the others had been holed up. This is a great page. So they go inside, they've got their gas masks on, but the whole warehouse explodes. So it was rigged with explosives, TNT specifically, by Archangel. And the warehouse goes up and those magistrates are dead. So this is war. And then the scene switches to the penthouse of the Citadel, which is the apartment office of Genosha's female president. And up there we have Cameron Hodge, the president herself, looking grotesquely like a female Ronald Reagan, and the chief engineer, Dr. David Moreau, and also Mutate Storm, who appears to be completely mind-wiped, but there's a storm outside the Citadel. And long-time readers know that Storm has, when she is under duress, her unconscious affects the weather, and that's what's going on here with the colour hold outside the windows of the penthouse apartment. Now everybody here is debating about what's happening and what they have to do next, and the president says we must act swiftly to legally try and condemn the mutants for their attacks and thieveries. And the engineer asks, how can we try them when 2 of our initial captives have escaped and a 3rd is dead? Genosha will look ridiculous. So the president says, or rather, no, I think this is Hodge says, looking out the window, the warehouse has exploded. Even now your magistrates assault the mutants in their lair. But Moreau, looking outside and looking beyond Storm, is the one that makes the point that Storm is building. At least it should prevent the spread of flames. And the engineer, when he used the mutation process, the mutate manufacturing process on Storm, used a bespoke program and seems to have done something different with her from the likes of Rain and the other mutates. So something is going on there. Now what happens is Alex arrives with the news that the explosion killed the magistrates who infiltrated the warehouse. And so what happens here now is the penthouse is attacked, and it's attacked specifically by the trio of Cannonball, Archangel, and Banshee. And this is the point that Archangel realizes that Cameron Hodge is still alive. "You lead these Genoshan madmen," he exclaims, "but what? How?" And Hodge replies, "You assumed, Archangel, that when you sliced off my head, I would necessarily die. But through a deal with the demon Nastir, and the miracle of Right technology, the organization that he founded, anti-mutant organization, I got better." And here again, you can see those black spots and dots, pimples and blackheads on Hodge's nose there. And that again is reminiscent of Robert Crumb's style. And Archangel thinks to himself, he's mad. He's returned as a living nightmare. So he attacks with his razor sharp wings. But Hodge, the technology of his mechanoid body is capable of phasing to intangibility and then solidifying around Archangel's wingtip, which basically locks it in place. So Archangel realizes that he can't break free, even as he is bound by Hodge's tentacles. All the while, Banshee is still active in the background, so he tells Cannonball, "Grab the president," because that was the plan, to see if they could get a hostage, while I break Archangel free. So Banshee tells Cannonball to move, but Hodge's suit of like his body, his mechanical body, is impervious to the powers of the X-Men and X-Factor. "A game try," he says to Banshee, "but this is a special order body, custom built to withstand the power of my mutant enemies, as my natural body could not." But the violence of the battle causes elements of the penthouse to collapse. One of these big statues collapses on top of Cannonball, so he's trapped there. And for some reason, but it's not clear in the art, Banshee is knocked out and onto the ground. But it's unclear how that happened between this page and this one. So the president gets up and she says, "I'm grateful to you, Hodge, and astounded at the audacity of the mutants who would attack me even here at my office of state." Cannonball says, "Like you ordered your men to attack us at our school." And Hodge exclaims, "Silence, Gene joke. How dare you compare your deeds to that of Genosha's president? We've captured more of these mutants as I predicted," he says. "And if the others are where I think they are, we will soon have them all." But Cyclops is still free, and he's got his plan to infiltrate the Citadel from below. And he's carrying, with Iceman, disguised Iceman here, somebody under this blanket. Magistrate hurt, boss, muties bomb him, burn him bad. So the magistrate says, "Take him to the infirmary in the Citadel, you lazy devils, and be quick about it." So there they are. They've made it to the infirmary, and one of these magistrates gets curious about who or what is under the blanket. And there's a little bit of humor here. Cyclops says, and note his mutate number, 007. He says to the magistrate, "He numbers 666, boss." And the magistrate wonders, 666? Hey Joe, take a look. Somebody with a sense of humor numbered this one. 666 is, you guessed it, chump, the number of the beast. So it's the beast. And his fist emerges from underneath the blanket and knocks out that magistrate. So the trio of X-Factor guys make their way in under this trapdoor here. And who do they meet on the other side? Except for Havoc. And this is another opportunity for Scott to see if he can get his brother to remember who he truly is. So, of course, their powers cancel out against each other, and Cyclops decides he'll blast the gun instead. "Good try, Bunky," responds Alex, "but no cigar. the gun's being protected from your powers by technology supplied by the right organization. Again, that's Cameron Hodge's anti-mutant organization. And so now Cyclops is getting clued in on who the mastermind enemy is, with a personal vendetta against them. The right, as in Cameron Hodge, but he's dead, isn't he? He thinks. What does he have to do with all of this? So Alex says to his brother, in defeating me, you made me look like a fool. That was in the previous issue of X Factor number 60. Now you don't look so great yourself. But Cyclops continues and persists to see if he can get his brother to remember who he truly is. Why even try, Alex? Don't you remember? I'm your big brother. You never were able to take me in a fair fight. Just look at the huge biceps on Cyclops there. Slim Summers has been working out in the gym. He's got like a massive muscled arm, courtesy of Jon Bogdanove's anatomy here. In a lightning move, Cyclops slams the gun aside and twists Alex's arm, trapping him in a vice-like grip. So he's kind of choking him out here a little bit, and Alex is still insistent that he won't betray his country. And Cyclops says, I'm trying to stop you from betraying yourself. And here it is. He says to him, Alex, remember, back when we were little, our parents' plane exploded in flames. Our mother pushed us from it with a single parachute between us. I held you just like this. I didn't let you go then, and I won't let you go now. And that's what gets through to Alex. I remember, he thinks to himself. It's true. Somebody's been messing with my mind, my life. So he has that epiphany, that revelation of his true identity. And just at that moment, who arrives except for the villain, Cameron Hodge? And Havoc goes for his gun. And of course, Cyclops now sees who indeed has been behind everything that's happened. Cyclops. And Hodge here thinks that Havoc is turning the gun against him. So the serpent has fangs. Surely, Magistrate, you don't mean to use that weapon on me? And he doesn't. He uses it on Cyclops. On you, sir? Surely you don't think I'd believe this Gene joke's lies. So it looks like Havoc, after the revelation, reverted to loyalty to Genosha. But then in the thought balloons, Louise Simonson makes clear to us that no, his epiphany was deep. There's no way I could save Scott, he thinks, without revealing my memories returned and betraying myself. And there's no point in both of us winding up in jail. Outside, I can work to aid our cause. And if anyone dies by my hand, Hodge, I swear it will be you. So at the end of the second act, this is how things stand. All of our mutant X teams have been captured. All the members have been captured, with the exception of Boom Boom and Richter, who are free, but without their powers. And Jubilee is the only mutant, like free mutant on the island with her powers. But of course, she's just 13 and a half, and only has had a very cursory training by Wolverine. And then there's Havoc, the man on the inside, whose memories of who he truly is have finally returned, and who is determined to use his status as an insider to effect a turnabout on Cameron Hodge. Next, see X-Men 272, New Mutants 97 and X Factor 62 for the startling conclusion to the X-Tinction agenda. So no letters page in this particular issue because there was 23 pages of story and art. I do hope that you enjoyed my review and commentary on X Factor number 61. Let me know your thoughts on this issue in the comment section to the video. If you enjoyed my review and commentary, please like the video on YouTube. It really does help the channel. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.